Por favor, con un fuerte aplauso recibamos al señor Scott Amyx.
Hola Costa Rica. Es maravilloso estar aquí. As you can see, my Spanish is very poor. In high school, I took Spanish and I learned about this much. And I think the only thing I took away from the earlier session was lunch. I'm one of those people that need to know what's happening. Matter of fact, when I go see my doctor, I always ask the same question. Doc, am I gonna die? She says no. But if you don't pay the bill on time, yeah, maybe. And if I wanna know what the weather is like, I don't just look it up on my phone. I get scientific. I ask Grandma. Because Grandma has joints that can provide minute-to-minute forecasts of weather. Well, here's another scenario that perhaps maybe some of you can connect with. Someone identifies a problem at work, right? So he's scratching his head, and he tells Andrew, come over here, take a look at this. You look at it for a while, they can't quite figure it out. So they then ask, Vanessa, come, take a look. And pretty soon you have 5 people looking at this problem, scratching their heads, and they can't figure it out. And then someone smart says, hey, let's just go to lunch. Well, believe it or not, this is how we're operating some of our businesses with gut intuition, or what we call hippo, the highest paid person in the room. You know what they're talking about, right? Now the bosses in this room, they probably have no idea what a hippo is, but behind their back, you know they're a hippo. But this is why I want to talk to you about the Internet of Things as a service. Because Internet of Things provides us a way to be able to collect information so we're not relying on gut and haphazard decision making. More importantly, the Internet of Things provides a way for us to be able to start to quantify. Earlier session, you heard new metrics. That's what we're going to talk to you about. But I want to put this in the context of Costa Rica. Let me ask you a question. Do you know which country ranks high in the Happy Planet Index? Costa Rica, right? Matter of fact, if you compare it to the US, you guys live longer. You guys are happier. There's less inequality. And you actually care about the environment, unlike someone that I know in Singapore right now. And your standard, your GDP is on the rise. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking that Costa Rica might be my new home. And agriculture alone, look at this, $720 million. It's incredible. But where Costa Rica really shines is you're a powerhouse when it comes to services, providing corporate services and BPO call center to multinational firms. And I was just speaking with a gentleman right over there for this speech. And it's not a surprise. Why? Because you're spending so much money on education, second to none, only beaten by Norway. That is incredible. No wonder Costa Rica is a destination country for foreign investment. 2017 was a rock star year, and Costa Rica is kicking ass. Right? And I think that was politically correct. And you guys work so hard. I'm originally from South Korea, and I thought that we work long hours. Do you guys even sleep? I mean, it's incredible. I'm so impressed with Costa Rica. However, when you take the GDP per hour, what we see is something that is a little more systemic. It's about low labor productivity. And this is where the Internet of Things as a service comes in. Because it's not just about working long hours. It's about working smart. And it's about using the assets and infrastructure that you have to be able to extract more out of that. Internet of Things is the ecosystem that can help boost that labor productivity that I'm talking about. At a high level, the Internet of Things is about collecting information from things, objects, and environment, and using that to then bring it into the cloud to do further analysis. Now, I'm actually not going to go into the technical aspect of it, but this is happening all over the world. Last week, I was in the United Nations talking about Sustainable Development Goals. The week before, I was in Helsinki, Finland, talking about AI and health. And I can tell you, wherever I go, Internet of Things is real. It's being used right now as we speak. Matter of fact, there are already devices that's available out of the box like these. You don't have to create anything new. And these can sensor, capture things about the environment, about your agriculture, about water, and even molecules. Now, some of you are probably thinking, Scott, this sounds too good to be true. To be able to actually quantify everything in the value chain, in the business processes, and our assets and infrastructure in real time. And you're probably thinking, this is new, this is hard, how do we do this? And what I would say to that is, this is where you need to partner up with a strategic service provider that can provide you with a holistic set of Internet of Things as a service. Now, when you're thinking about that strategic partner, think about some of the qualifications, such as hyperconnectivity. Because we're collecting information from remote location, you need that hyperconnectivity, hyperbandwidth. Then you need security. As you saw in the earlier sessions, security has to be a core offering. It has to be a security as a service in everything that you do, because the Internet of Things, if it's done poorly, increases vulnerability. You want a partner who is a cloud broker that can give you the options of public and private service options when it comes to cloud. And ultimately, it's about managed services. Do you know the full stack, standards and protocols, all the technical things that's involved in Internet of Things? No. You want to rely on the partner who has that depth of knowledge, then tailors that solution just for your particular set of needs and your customer base. And last, data center. Making sure that you have a data center partner that can scale across Central and South America with this managed and federated set of services, so that when you're pushing out capabilities and new products, you know that it's going to reach all of South America. Now, I know I've been talking to you a little bit conceptually, so I want to walk you through a number of case studies. These are real. These are not aspirational. These are happening now, or in some cases, been for several years. First, we're going to talk about agriculture. But I want to share a story, a personal story. Recently, we've moved over to New York City. I'm originally from South Korea, but mostly grew up in Silicon Valley. Well, in San Francisco Bay Area, there is no backyard. But now that we're in New York City area, we have a huge backyard. We're just outside of the city. And we planted 5 plants. It's actually pretty good for us because we're really not very handy or have a green thumb. Well, my wife is attending to this potted plant, and she's complaining that it's just something's not right. So she takes it out and pulls it out. Guess what we find? This much of rotting water in the pot. Yeah, that's why she's not a gardener in our home. She's been fired. Well, imagine on a large scale farm how difficult it is to address some of these issues. Being able to systematically cover remote locations with just a handful of workers. To be able to control disease and pests. and the water condition, the climate condition, it is incredibly challenging. But what you're seeing here is a case study from Colombia with the banana agricultural case study. See, what they wanted to do was to increase their production and to do it in a way that was sustainable. Now, one of the things you know much about bananas is that they're highly sensitive to climate changes. And when there is a change or a decrease in temperature, the oxygen level in the soil also decreases. And that in turn actually increases the rate of fungus and disease and ultimately impacts your yield. So what they wanted to do was create a new set of banana varieties that can be less temperature dependent. And that's when they turn to the Internet of Things. And you can see right here these sensors and how the connectivity is so important as you're managing these broad remote locations. And because of Internet of Things, now they can actually measure humidity, temperature, soil conditions, even the diameter of the trunk, and even the size of the fruit and the soil classifications. So as a result, they've increased significant yield and productivity, and they're on their way to create new varieties. Let's talk about renewables. Clean energy. One of the things I'm so impressed about Costa Rica is your commitment to green initiatives, unlike someone that I know back in the US. And when it comes to renewable energy, it's the same problem, because we're talking about such large infrastructure and large processes. How do you start to systematically measure and control and evaluate your assets? And you can see that renewable energy, regardless of what it is within it, is highly complex, from upstream, midstream, downstream, getting the insights, the automation, the controls. Hydropower plants. This is called Pont Bolgy in south of France. It's one of the largest dams. By the way, I'm highly afraid of heights and water, so I stay away from hydropower plants. But when you think about this type of energy harvesting, it is a massive infrastructure. Let me ask you, do you think they can afford to have a crack in the dam? Can they afford to have the wrong flow of water? It is highly important, and this is why GE has been working with Pont Bolgy to be able to put in place Internet of Things so that it can systematically control and monitor the entire operation and to have an increase in uptime by 1%. Now 1% you may think, gosh, that's so small, but when it comes to the energy production of this beast, that is significant in the ability to deter, detect, and to prevent failure points. Wind power. ECNR manages wind farms. Now when it comes to wind farms, it's about forecast, believe it or not. I noticed that up on the hill, you guys have these wind farms, right? But did you know that many times they're underutilized? Matter of fact, ECNR were experiencing 30% in their design margins because of underutilization of wind power turbines. And by using the Internet of Things, they were able to not only increase through better forecasting planning by 10%, but they were able to increase their profit by 20%. This is real. These are real case studies that matter and have real economic value to it. Geothermal power. Now, if you know much about Japan, they have wonderful hot springs. And you don't want to put that to waste, right? So what they do is they turn those hot springs, those geothermal power, into energy harvesting. This is Waida, geothermal power plant in Japan. But did you know that these are actually highly corrosive? So the infrastructure, all the equipment that you see, you can imagine the steam. It's not just steam, it's the minerals that's coming from under the ground. That is eating into your equipment. Using the Internet of Things, they were able to measure, monitor, detect, and prevent so that they would have 99.8% uptime instead of having to replace and address failure points. Because remember, there are corrosion, cracking, erosion. They have to think about the flow rate, the temperature, the steam. All that has to be measured. And that's what Internet of Things can do. Solar energy. I was in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, a couple of months ago, laying out a blueprint for renewable energy, particularly around large-scale CSP. Did you know that the largest solar CSP is called Kamuthi, which is based in India? We're talking about not a few kilometers, we're talking hundreds, thousands of kilometers of solar panels. Does it make sense to drive your truck to see how they're doing? It makes no sense. And that's why the Internet of Things is so important, so that you can actually monitor across thousands and thousands of kilometers of these solar fields. Now what you're seeing here is a company called Rica that is able to use their product DC-DC converter to optimize the field architecture layout. And by doing so, they're able to increase that yield, that conversion, and do it while it's actually lower cost, and do it more predictably. Because as we know, in the renewable energy, the biggest problem is that it's intermittent. What happens when it's cloudy? What happens if it's raining? So being able to forecast using AI with IoT becomes hypercritical to making sure that it's even pointing in the right direction. Let me transition to smart cities and smart buildings. I was voted last year as a top expert when it comes to smart cities. And I guess last week I was at United Nations talking about a lot of these issues within the framework of Sustainable Development Goals. And smart city is so important because right now, imagine businesses, governments, NGOs, and consumers are operating without data. Now, when it comes to renewable energy in particular, is that we want to actually make wise choices as consumers and businesses. But what this company does, what time, is they actually have a system in devices and thermostats and batteries and so forth. And it's constantly grabbing information about the renewable energy, the environments, and the grid information. And they use that information to automatically switch between the mix of renewable energy. And why is that important? So that governments and businesses and consumers are making wise choices about the cleanest energy source. And then for the service or the energy providers, this is a way for them to get visibility and distribution. By the way, one other use case. In New Zealand, a friend of mine who works for Microsoft says that consumers can actually switch between their energy providers throughout the day. So based on price points, they can just switch. That is incredible. And I can tell you, even that does not exist in the US. So they have a leg up. Smart glasses, not AR, VR mixed reality, but what you're seeing here is a combination of solar power with transparent windows. Because when you think about smart cities, what's in smart cities? Buildings, windows and lots of surfaces that are being underutilized. So these smart glasses turn these windows and surfaces into energy harvesting so that you can actually start to power the building, power the automobiles, the electric vehicles, and other needs. And it's all done in a clean, sustainable manner. Not to mention it provides beautiful shade. Irrigation, smart irrigation, and water conservation. Now, I told you before that I'm originally from California, and in Northern California, which is very strange because it's very hot and dry, yet most of the US produce actually comes from California because of the subsidies. Well, we would have these hot, dry spells, and I'd be out there watering for hours, and the grass is constantly brown, and I can't seem to figure out if I'm underwatering or overwatering. Well, the first step is to be able to measure your water consumption. And that's what this company, Amyx, does, is it's able to provide an intelligent, automated irrigation pump system so that you know what the consumption of the water is. You know what the cost of that is. And then potentially, if there are any potential failure points or maintenance issues, you get the notification directly on your mobile phone. The other aspect of living in a smart city has to do with ID and payments. One of the challenges is that it's very difficult sometimes to do business with government, right? In terms of even just making payments, or making purchases, or just letting people know who you say you really are. Well, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was speaking in Shanghai, and after the conference, I decided to go shopping for my wife, because my wife's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to get her something nice. So I purchased a beautiful Louis Vuitton handbag, very expensive. I don't usually do this. After spending all that much money, I went to another store to buy a couple of souvenirs for our kids. Just a few dollars, I mean, really inexpensive. But you know what happened? When they saw my credit card, the store clerk said, "Sorry, the signature on the credit card does not match the signature on your driver's license." What do you mean? Now keep in mind, they don't speak English, you don't read English, I don't speak Chinese. And what happened was that the back of the credit card, it didn't have my signature, it had something else. It asked for ID, No wonder it asked for ID didn't match with my signature. So even though I just spent a lot of money at another store, I can even buy a few teddy bears for my kids. Yeah, my wife was happy, but my kids were not. So what you're seeing here is called Geothermal. Geothermal is an intelligent digital ID solution. It's a system that provides digital authentication across credit cards, mobile devices, and wearables, so that it's easier for you to make payments to government services. It's easier to make purchases, and it's easier to let people know who you really are. Armored trucks. I recently heard a story a few years ago, I guess apparently in Paraguay. There was something called Heist of the Century, where some 60 bandits stole some $12 million. Wow. What we're talking about is the potential for IoT deployment here as well, in terms of IoT fleet management, where you can actually track the movement of all your assets at any given point. And if it veers off course, or if it stays in a location too long, you can be notified in real time. And if for some reason it's compromised, or there's a robbery in progress, you can disable the engine and then automatically notify the authorities. So yeah, you don't have any excuse for losing gold and cash anymore, hopefully. When it comes to smart buildings, or just buildings in general, whether it's campuses, or innovation parks, or commercial real estate, one of the biggest costs has to do with electricity. And that's mostly coming from lighting in particular, right? So what you're seeing here is Lumen systems, and they are a 7-time winner of clean tech energy, and they use their intelligent LED lighting system to automatically adjust the lighting based on the occupancy and their needs. And they're able to reduce the energy cost by some 90%. Now at home, I tell you, I'm one of those people, maybe some of you can relate. I'm the one that chases after people and switches lights off. And then when I see that the bathroom light is off, on, guess what I do? I turn it off. And if they say, "Hey, I'm in here," I walk away. When it comes to smart city, aside from electricity use for lighting, the other major cost is the HVAC. When we talk about a big space like this, where you're having to forcefully push air to cool or to heat, that is using a tremendous amount of energy. By the way, at home, I'm notorious for turning up the heater too high or the AC too high. And I actually create my own set of air pollution as well. Excuse me. The thing with traditional HVAC is that not only is it costly, but it doesn't address the air quality. And what you're seeing here is a company called endorsed, and they are an intelligent air purifying solution. So instead of having to forcefully pull in all that air from the outside and then push it into the indoor, it is cleaning the air inside, removing the contaminated particles and cleansing that environment so that people are happier and, of course, reducing costs. But you see, IoT is an ecosystem. It is a powerful ecosystem if you know how to use it. And it has the potential to be able to not depend on intuition or gut, but to depend on data, real data, the truth, the undeniable truth that cannot be refuted. And in the process, it helps increase the customer experience. TEDx that you heard in the prior session. It brings out the cost so that it's lean and efficient. And in the process, with all that data, you can use that as a way to inform your product development and management, to create new products and service offerings, which then in turn increases our return on investment and increases your profit margin. Now, how do you do this? This is again where you need to partner with the right strategic long-term partner that understands the complexity of the full stack that I didn't even go into. That can get you up and running quickly with a low entry cost, high scalability, high security, and do it in a way that is uniquely tailored for your organization and customers' needs, and accounting for the support as well. IoT is not a potential. I can tell you, being in Vienna, being in Düsseldorf, being in Rome just the last few months, this is real, this is happening. This is happening, and if you don't take action, you are going to lose competitive advantage, just like the first couple of sessions you had. In the US, in particular, we are going through something called a retail destruction. Sears, Kmart, you name it, all the major brands that sell clothing as an example, they're going out of business. They've known for almost 20 years about Amazon and online and e-commerce, but have they done anything? No. Now they're going out of business. So the worst thing that you can do is do nothing. The best thing that you can do is to make Costa Rica even better. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a Scott, Amyx. Thank you very much. Vamos a iniciar ahora un periodo de preguntas y respuestas, aproximadamente 10 minutos, ¿no entendido? ¿Verdad? Las modelos y los micrófonos están disponibles en estos dos pasillos. Si ustedes desean hacer la pregunta en inglés, bienvenidos. Si no, pueden hacerla en español y yo les respondo la pregunta. ¿Okay?
Don't be shy.
Hey, hi Scott. The question is where to start in the path of creating a smart city? Which is the correct way to start from scratch?
So the question is around how to develop smart cities and what is the right approach. What I would share with you is that it's about data centricity. It's very easy. I have, like I said, traveled the world, and I know of multimedia cities and new science cities, whether it's in Saudi Arabia, UK, Korea, wherever. But they're just a collection of buildings. That is not necessarily the way you build smart cities. During the winter, I was in Guangzhou meeting with the governor of Guangzhou in China, And they have a plan to grow that city from 10 million people to 50 to 100 million people in just like 5 years. And then he had his staff unroll a map which went from here to there. And 4 or 5 people were holding this map saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That is not how you build a smart city. We're working with a number of colleagues that are researchers by trade. And what they've done is they're actually using publicly available data to be able to ascertain for a given region what is the right mixture of private-public innovation. And importantly is that it's not about artificial approach, but it's about looking at what is organic, what is already happening there, and what is a natural set of other auxiliary services they can complement with. So it's about giving more momentum in the areas where you're already seeing growth. And then it's about building it up incrementally. As a case study, in Prague, when I spoke last week, last year, I had a chance to meet with some new people, and I met a great new friend who's an Israeli, who is doing some work in the Czech Republic. Outside of Prague, if you go to cities like Dresden, for example, it is blighted. Absolutely no life, no economic development whatsoever. So what is he doing? He's realizing in that region what they need to start with is education. So instead of hacking the existing educational system by trying to change it, he's inserting games. Let me explain. What he's realized that is in public school, between subjects, there's about 7.5 minutes in between. So he has introduced these mobile games that are intended to develop cognitive abilities of K through 12 students. So that by 12, they are more cognitively aware and advanced than their relative peers. Then he recruits them into his specialty school where they do 10, 12 hours of IoT, AI, robotics, blockchain, so that they can become inventors. And then he's building housing around the academy. And now we're talking to the Volkswagen, the BMW, the Mercedes to bring commercial real estate and the presence there. And now we're getting others as well involved in building out that city. But then we started with education. So to answer your question, there is no set methodology or approach, but it's about organically creating something that's localized, starting with data to inform and to build upon that incrementally instead of artificially constructing great, expensive buildings.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I'm thinking a little bit more about the future. So it's not actually a subject that we spoken, but understanding blockchain and how blockchain's energy consumption levels are way up high. How might or would it or could it work for IoT to reduce that consumption? Would it be possible?
So the question is around blockchain and the implication to energy use. So let me first address, for those that are not familiar with blockchain, what it is, and then address your question. First of all, most of you have heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, right? That is just one application of blockchain. Blockchain underneath is a cryptographic set of algorithms. Matter of fact, in New York, I met with one of the pioneers, Stuart, who created a hash function back in early 90s or so. So it's around cryptographic algorithms using mathematics. It's a security function. That's really what it is. But it's done in a way that's for decentralized and distributed networks. And that is important in connectivity because now it's not just all things in the cloud. For the data to go into the cloud, there are also nodes that are out there, and you need to protect those nodes. That's where blockchain comes into the picture. Now, the question is around energy consumption, and particularly, I believe it's related to Bitcoin and data mining. So, for those of you that, again, not familiar with it, there are several ways to monetize off Bitcoins. There are the ones that trade Bitcoins in a speculative fashion, right? And then there are others called miners, where they create these server farms that is crunching away, solving the cryptographic algorithm, the mathematical problem, so that they can actually have consensus to add and verify to the general ledger. Now that process of that process of mining is so energy intensive that a lot of them have come to, I believe, Wyoming in the US, where there is a hydropower plant. They're using water dam that's low energy cost. But what is ironic about this whole thing is you're using real, tangible earth resources to create artificial, virtual constructs, right? And in the process, you're killing it. Now, how can IoT and other things come into play? As I speak at other conferences, this is just the tipping point, is that eventually your phone, your clothes, the seats, the carpet, the wall, the lights, all start to not only collect information, but the microcontrollers in them become powerful. They have storage, they have bandwidth. So what you've effectively done is you've distributed out the cloud computational power into everything. And in some cases, unfortunately, the bad guys have already started to harness the power of the internet to do attacks. You heard WannaCry, right, as an example. Now they're actually using internet things to mine for bitcoins. That's the bad side. But there are also legitimate startups that are using the internet of things and edge devices to use this computational power in little bits and bits to solve a bigger problem or what we call a job. So in the process, you're basically distributing out that cost. Now with that said, I will give you 2 points and I will get off the stage for the next speaker. One is blockchain, and I spoke on this in New York at a Privacy Data Week, is that blockchain, in my opinion, has about 10 to 15 years of usage, primary usage. Why? Because once quantum computing becomes commercialized in the next 10 to 15 years, the hacking of all cryptographic algorithms, elliptical, Bayesian, whatever it is, all of those will be cracked in blockchain as well. So quantum computer will decimate any type of currently developed algorithms using traditional computers. Second point is that it's not just blockchain or IoT or AI. It's when you combine IoT, when you combine cloud, when you combine AI, when you combine blockchain, and it's the convergence of these things together that starts to be transformational. So next week I'm going to be speaking on robotics, not just singular robotics, but intelligent, autonomous swarm of robotics that are working together independently of each other. So I can assure you in the next 10 plus years, you're going to see things you've never seen before in your life. So with that said, I want to thank you for your time.